Yeah, starting off with the Kilkenny player ratings, you'd have to go with Owen Murphy in goals. Probably give him 7 out of 10 maybe. It's hard to blame him for a whole pile. Maybe the puck outs in the second half. Didn't have great options in front of him. I suppose it's the sort of thing that when you're planning for a big game, and any game really, that if things aren't going right, you have to figure out what are our set plays for puck outs. And perhaps there weren't that many options that they'd figure out in case things were going wrong. Don't think he could do a whole lot for any of the goals. Definitely in 2014, he was probably unbelievable in those finals and possibly denied Tipperary, but he wasn't really given much chance here. Maybe could have come off his line a little bit sooner for the Bubbles goal, but again, that's really splitting hairs. So I think 7 out of 10 is fair for the guy who is probably for the last few years the best goalkeeper in the game and maybe of all time, actually, definitely in the conversation. Paul Murphy, 7 out of 10. Very good in the first half when Tipperary were just lorrying ball into their forward line. He had too much pace, power, and aerial ability for Jason Ford, but I think it was very tough after the break. I think maybe one high ball kind of slipped behind him and it ended up in a Tipperary goal, but other guys had chances to clear the ball anyway, so it's not down to him alone. And then the dam burst, so it's very hard for any Kilkenny back at that stage. Hugh Lawler, another guy somewhere between 7 and 8 out of 10, probably just 7 because Seamus Callanan scored 1-1 from play. Don't think you probably couldn't even blame Lawler for that, so I'd probably stretch as far as an 8 out of 10, even though Callanan made a big impact. Callanan also set up Bubbles for that goal, but I think Lawler had done enough to kind of limit Callanan to probably a point in that instance if Joey Holden had to continue to pick up Bubbles and not kind of come halfway and leave an open pass through. Won plenty of tough ball, you'd have to say, to Lawler, and it looks like Kilkenny have a fullback for years to come, so that's something that has come out of this. Like, he's had some really tough tasks against the likes of Galan and obviously against Callanan here. Joey Holden, probably 6 out of 10, I would say, taken off injured with 12 minutes remaining, so tough day at the office. He's the most recent All-Ireland winning captain for Kilkenny. Yeah, like I said, maybe left Bubbles a little bit too early for that goal, and it meant that the Kilkenny man had all day to control and finish. Did win plenty of ball as well, so it wasn't by any stretch a very poor display or anything from Joey Holden, but probably a 6 on this occasion. Give something similar to Conor Fogarty. Niall O'Mara definitely made an impact on the game, and he probably won't want to see a replay of that Niall O'Mara goal where he was twisted and turned inside out, but I think plenty of players have been in that position and know it's a horrible one, because one thing you want to do for sure is get back and face your man and be able to put pressure on him, but it's just so awkward in that situation, so I just kind of felt sorry for him. Very hard to untangle yourself. Pádraig Walsh, 6 out of 10, I think, never really got into the game, and part of that would tell you about how Tip used the ball. They weren't just going to truck it all day on top of Pádraig Walsh, who is going to destroy you if you do that. Hit a nice point in the second half. Maybe should have been shifted upfield as soon as Tip went 8 points ahead, to see if he can make an impact on the game. Maybe even push him up on Noel McGrath. Cillian Buckley, I know, came off. It wasn't happening for him. Don't think Killian's fully fit, but if he had to go back even the half back line and push Pádraig Walsh upfield, Pádraig Walsh would probably have the pace to keep with anyone, including Noel McGrath, and then he's a scoring threat closer to the Tipperary goal. So maybe there was something there for them. Paddy Deegan, I think he's a really good, honest player and probably the exact embodiment of what Brian Cody wants from players in his team. But he had a bad wide early on, and his delivery is under no massive pressure in the second half. And it's easy to say that from up in the stand. Obviously down there it's the white hot heat of battle, but a couple of his deliveries in the second half were kind of a killer for his team, because he hit a few directly to Tipperary backmen and didn't really, a bit of variety there, play it short to somebody, try and hit grass or something, but when you're just trucking it into numbers, it's going to be very tough. So that was manna for heaven for Tip, so maybe just a 5 out of 10 there for Paddy Deegan, and something similar for Conor Brown. I think he was a victim of being given the wrong assignment. Clearly Brian Cody didn't want Michael Breen running up the centre and getting 4 or 5 points, which he's capable of doing. So he put a like v like man on him. But Brown then going the other way, you'd hope, like, he did keep Breen fairly quiet, but you'd think that when he's not on someone like Noel McGrath, that he might have a bit more of an impact on the game himself. He was very good doing a man marking job against Keane Lynch in the semi-final when Kilkenny were on top in a lot of the game, but maybe he should have done the same with Noel McGrath here and put Connor Brown on him. So I think a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 for Killian Buckley as well. After 5 minutes, Noel McGrath probably had more possessions than Buckley would have in the entire game. Feel sorry for him because he was out for so long. And he'd already struggled against the likes of Diarmuid O'Keefe in the Leinster Championship. So when your team is struggling to get on the ball, being midfield is absolute horror position because you're trying to mark a really clever player who has so much space and time on the ball. So tough outing for Killian Buckley, but no doubt he'll be back. John Donnelly, 8 out of 10 as far as I'm concerned. Best Kilkenny forward on the day. Scored 3 points from play, winning puck outs. He won converted frees at the start of both halves as well, which kind of helps set a tone for you, and he's a real star for the future. TJ Reid, probably 8 out of 10 as well. Scored 11 points, 10 were from place balls, and he finished up the season as top scorer with 583, 312 of that coming from play. Won some impossible balls, but I think in some ways, if he wasn't able to win those 70-30 sort of balls, when it's just lumped into traffic and somehow he pulls it down out of the sky and either sets up a score, wins a free, or maybe knocks over a point. If he wasn't capable of doing that, maybe Kilkenny would have to rethink how they're knocking the ball up the field. And maybe it was just that performance against Galway when they ultimately went down to 13 men and he was just winning unlikely balls that they thought no matter what, TJ will win enough ball again and will stay competitive. But I mean, maybe they're a victim of TJ being so good, and it didn't happen on this day for him. He was still good, really good, 8 out of 10, but they're asking him to do the impossible there. Wally Walsh, I think it's probably got to be somewhere between 6 and 7 out of 10, possibly 6. Started the game well, but his shooting was off. He had 3 goal scoring chances. The first one was, I think it was, he was one-on-one with Brendan Maher, and Brendan had lost his hurley, and he had a chance to step inside him, but ended up getting a free, so I suppose that's not too bad. He blasted over another chance for a point early in the second half. I think the goal was on there. And then he was blocked down by Paddy Maher later on in the second half when, you probably, if you had to go back again, maybe he would have done a fake shot, maybe he would have ran at Paddy, but it didn't really happen for him, and I think Paddy caught a fair bit of ball over him, so you're probably looking at a 6 out of 10 there. Adrian Mullen, I feel unbelievably sorry for Adrian Mullen because he's waking up on Sunday morning and reports are flying everywhere that he's out of the game, that he's had a stomach bug, that all sorts have happened. And if you're a young lad, 19 years of age, and all you're hearing is about this, and people start texting you, I'm sure he doesn't have his phone off that early in the day, and he's just getting all these texts saying, "Are you all right?" And not only that, he's already trying to deal with the biggest day of his sporting life, and within that, he's trying to, he has people asking him, is he actually okay? So further doubts are in his head, never mind the fact that he did have some sort of a stomach bug during the week. Cody wanted to play it down, but even so, I mean, what's going on in Adrian Mullen's head before this game? How many texts did he receive? I mean, it just didn't happen for him at all, but he's a really talented player, and you could see him deliver in big finals for years to come after this. So probably a 5 out of 10, but I think a lot of that is outside of what Adrian's capable of doing, and it's other factors. Colin Fennelly, probably 6 out of 10. I think he excels most when ball is dropped in front of him or hand passed to him, and he can run directly at his man one-on-one. Like, even you think of the amount of times he runs directly at lads and bats in the finish or slashes it into the top corner. Didn't get enough of that ball. Could have goaled early on when Wally Walsh set him up, but John McGrath got back. Came out to the wing later on and scored a point. Probably 6 out of 10, but I mean, a lot of that is down to the ball going into him, so maybe a 7. Richie Hogan, again, another player you feel very sorry for. It's the sort of tackle, the shoulder to the head, that we've seen Lara Corbett get away with that back in 2008 against Watford. In many eras, Cody or Brian Hogan would have got away with that tackle as well. I think it was just rash, a lad barreling in, wanted to make some sort of contact when he felt Cathal Barrett slipping by him for the second time in the game. So you do reach your arm out. I don't think he tried to hit him with the arm in the face guard, but that's just the way it panned out and he had to go. I mean, he had scored a nice point early on, and then also he had done really, really well to work himself a scoring opportunity, and strangely hit it wide. But I think only a very one-eyed supporter would say it wasn't a red card, and it was unpleasant to see how distressed he looked as he realised that James Owen was about to give him a red card. So probably a 5 out of 10. Hard to know how he would have done overall, but it was so costly for Kilkenny. So that's the Kilkenny player ratings. Don't forget to subscribe to the page by clicking subscribe below, and click on the bell too if you want the get a notification on your phone when another video has gone up.